Well, diplomacy with North Korea hitting a roadblock. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo working with our allies and promising to keep the pressure on Pyongyang. But you know, the North Koreans, the rhetoric from the Kim Jong-un regime, man, oh man, it just gets worse and worse, especially after the Secretary of State canceled the trip. That trip was called off.
Sanctions are still in place. North Korea is still feeling the pressure. And if they want to play games with us, that's fine. They're not going to have any sanctions relief. At the same time, we're suggesting very clearly that we're prepared to negotiate with them, but the sanctions do not come off until we see progress.
Are the North Koreans really sincere? Well, Fox News senior strategic analyst, retired four-star General Jack Keane joins us now. It seems like we've been at this rodeo before, General. I mean, we've seen this movie before.
Yeah, we have. It's, you know, when you make a step forward and there's two steps back, it's going to be a long process. I think everybody who's been involved in it knows that. I mean, what's happening here is Secretary Pompeo got sort of a belligerent letter from his counterpart from North Korea, showed it to the president. The president said, let's call off the meeting. And this is about leverage. He wants to use this pullback as leverage to get concessions out of the North Koreans.
Now, that strategy really did work with the summit, because the president canceled the summit. The North Koreans probably had no idea what to do after that. Probably really actually shook them up. What do you think their reaction to canceling the visit by the Secretary of State will eventually be? Do you think they'll walk some of this back?
Yeah, I think they'll try. What the North Koreans are really proposing, and they're doing it with South Korea as leverage for them, is to end the armistice. In other words, end the war and have a treaty as a result of it. Now, there's a trap there for the United States. And that trap is, once you have that treaty in place, why do you still have U.S. forces in South Korea? That is what the next shoe that would drop by the North Koreans. So we're not going to fall into that trap. We're not putting that on the table yet. I think that'll come at the end of the process as opposed to the beginning of the process.
Oh, I mean, we have forces deployed in Germany and elsewhere after World War II, and they've remained there for so long in NATO. Why would that be such a trap if indeed Congress did say that the Korean War is over?
Yeah, well, I think the South Koreans would support it themselves, and they're kind of in a little bit, to be frank, a little bit in the orbit of China, and China would support it. You know, where President Trump goes to get his counsel in the Far East is the Prime Minister of Japan, and they talk on a regular basis. And Abe really gives the president, I think, very sound advice, and it's constantly telling him, stay the course. He's a hardliner for sure, tough negotiator with the North Koreans. Listen, the North Koreans have blown off all the requests that we have made of substance. And certainly we got hostages back, we've got remains back. But the request of substance was simply this, Eric. One, identify for us all of your sites.
Haven't done that.
Nuclear sites, ballistic missile sites, have not done it. Two, let us have access to those sites so we can verify them. We know where some of those, obviously, but we don't know where all of them are. And then the third thing is, here's a suggested timeline for denuclearization. And they have pushed back on all of that. We're not going to make any progress until they come forward with some of that.
So my question, opening up this segment, are they sincere? You know, they lied and cheated before with the oil deal in 1994 with President Clinton. They did not abide by the outreach from President George W. Bush, taking them off the terrorism list. Do you think that Kim Jong-un will ever really denuclearize? I
mean, a safe bet is that he probably will not. But then again, they've never had to deal with President Trump. They've never had to deal with the sanctions that we're imposing, and also with the credible threat of a military option. So that actually, I think, is really what brought them to the table. Now, where are we going from here? I do believe if we're going to make any progress, we'll see that in the next few weeks, that Koreans will have to make some kind of a concession on the three things that I mentioned. If not, maximum sanctions. The problem with the sanctions, Eric, is China has opened the door a little bit, and they're moving commodities and fuel.
They're cheating, and Russia's cheating.
And Russia has never shut the door. And it's with the crisis of no ballistic tests and no missiles flying into the ocean, the crisis removes the danger, and it's harder to keep all of the countries enforcing their sanctions without that crisis mentality.
All right, General Keane, we'll see what happens in the next few weeks. Maybe they do save face somehow and step back. Always good to see you. Good to have you here in New York.
Yeah, it's always good to be here, my hometown.
Thank you. Sandra?
The General's always welcome. Meanwhile, Louis